Thank you for joining the Local Live Roundtable. I'm Maura Carlin, and sitting with me is Mike Witch, who's going to be taking social media questions.
You know, as always in our roundtable discussions, we invite you to ask questions by phone, email, or tweet. You can call into the show at 914-381-0150. You can email thelocallive@lmctv.org, or you can tweet at thelocallive. That information will also be on screen during the conversation.
Tonight's topic is bullying, and joining me is a return guest, newly retired Town of Mamaroneck Youth Officer, Detective Bob Reynolds. Bob joined us earlier this summer for a conversation about youth issues, and we ran out of time before tackling bullying. Bob's back to take your questions and mine about this hot topic. Bob, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Instances of bullying are in the news weekly, if not daily. And I even saw some disturbing statistics from the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry that nearly half of all children will experience bullying at some point during their education. Mm-hmm. What's going on?
That's a great question. I wish I knew. But there is a bullying issue in every school, every community that has just blossomed to dangerous levels that's in some areas.
Well, let's first start with them. What is bullying and what is not? I take it that an instance of meanness, which most of us face constantly, is not bullying.
A mean word is not bullying. The constant, continuous actions creating those mean words on an everyday basis, on an every period basis, on an every lunchtime basis, that's bullying.
And at what point does it become a criminal or a police matter?
Primarily when they up the ante to physically harm someone or threaten that harm.
So let's say a third grader says to another third grader, "I'm going to bring my daddy's gun." Mm-hmm. Is that really criminal?
No, but very dangerous and very, the school will call us and we'll be talking to that child and his parents and on and on and on. So.
It doesn't matter whether daddy has a gun?
Absolutely does.
If there is no gun in the house, is it not really a threat? I guess that's what I'm asking. It's still a threat.
Still a threat, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that we're going to arrest a child for that, but the police definitely get involved. We also do preventative bullying as well, so that it doesn't get to that point of altercation or physical harm.
So is there really this increase in bullying, or are people just talking about it more?
I think, no, there is definitely an increase in bullying, for sure. I think years ago, if someone was bullied, they were bullied by an individual. That individual would say something mean to you or to Mike and then keep on going. Now that individual can put it on Facebook where hundreds, thousands of other kids can see it. They can text you. Hundreds of kids will now see he or she is being bullied.
So the increase
the big difference.
Really
Social
has to do with the
media
cyberbullying?
Cyberbullying has been a huge problem. Years ago, it was just a one-on-one, my word against your word type. However, now with social media, it's not that.
Have you been able to identify any patterns as why one person is the target or why someone else is the bully?
No, there really hasn't been. It's interesting, some smaller children perhaps in school will get bullied, but yet smaller children, you would think that, but then there's no set boundary. I mean,
could be anyone.
Could be anyone, yeah.
On the cyberbullying, there are websites that are specifically set up for that.
Right.
Do the police monitor them? I mean, I guess
we do
Yik Yak or Don't Date My Ex, and these are even for adults.
In some instances, yes. We will be able to retrieve some of those items from a computer if necessary. However, I mean, that's an extreme necessary.
Right.
But we don't monitor it on a regular basis. If the school contacts us or a parent contacts us, then we'll handle it. The school is very vigilant now, more than ever before, Whereas 15 years ago, the school would always say, well, since this occurred at home, the computer or the phone call was from home, we really don't get involved.
Right.
Now they had a second thought about that many years ago and realized, well, it does affect inside the school, so let's handle it. And they really do a great job handling it, the school.
Do the schools tend to know about it before the parents?
Oh yes, oh yeah.
They do?
Oh yeah, yeah.
From seeing it or the kid reporting it?
Both.
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 Because one of the things you hear from kids is, well, I'm not going to tell my parents, or I
Right.
tell you tell your parents,
Right.
and Mom, you can't go to school because
Right.
that'll make
Exactly.
it worse.
Exactly.
Is that true? Or what's the
That's
best way to handle it?
That is, it isn't true, but that's what the kids think about because they are
Okay.
now, quote, tattletales. But they're really not tattletales. They're trying to help themselves. So we encourage kids to tell their parents. We encourage kids to tell the school. We also encourage their friends to either tell their parents or the school. Many times we get, or an instance in a school where one of the child's friends will come in to see the assistant principal or a teacher and say, hey, so-and-so is being bullied by so-and-so.
Is that right?
Yeah, and that's the best way to compound that. And then getting that person who's being the bully, their friends to say, okay, stop. If you see him, stop him. If you see her, stop her. Don't do that anymore. So that's the new way of trying to alleviate the problem. It does work, but it's in the meantime, it's very traumatic for these kids.
How do you know, or how should you suspect if your child's being bullied? What are the signs?
If they don't want to go to school, if they're having trouble in school, sometimes if they come home with
Bruises?
a bruise, a bloody nose, which the school may or may not know. If they do know, they're going to contact the parent for sure. If there was an altercation in the school, they're going to contact the parent.
And sometimes that's more
they-
insidious.
Correct. Sometimes they don't know. Sometimes it's after school. Many times when I was working, if I knew a child was being bullied, I would follow him or her all the way up the post road until they almost got home, just so that they know that Detective Reynolds was around or someone was around who they could say, oh, this guy's bothering me. And I would make sure the bully knew that I was around too.
Can I ask a question? How much of the bullying is physical as opposed to just verbal?
It's primarily verbal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say 80 to 90% is verbal.
And that would include the cyberbullying, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it's constant sometimes to these kids. Constant every day, every period, every lunchtime.
Have we become, this is the devil's advocate question, more sensitive to it? I mean, growing up, I do remember sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but names will not,
That's an old theory, and the reality is that too many kids were either hurting themselves, and the way to combat that is not to have these children be hurt, either hurt themselves or be hurt
Right.
by other kids. And it's okay to be sensitive about it.
It is.
Absolutely.
Should you, should a parent try to toughen their kid up, or no?
No, there's no. I'm not a believer in that. I'm a believer of let's fix the problem. Let's not. If he hits you, hit him back. Let's not go that route because someone could get really hurt, and then now there's a bigger issue.
Right.
So it's stand up for yourself. Be a man. No. We're going to fix this problem. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to fix it the way it should be fixed, not as hitting or be a man with pounding our chest type of thing. We don't want to do that.
Is there something the community as a whole should be doing? Like not just the individuals or particular parents or even the police, but as a community?
Well, parents, listen to your children and get to know if they are being
ahead,
bullied.
look into it.
Contact the school system. Contact your local youth officer. The school system is tremendous, and they're going to help you in every way they can. And if necessary, they'll contact the youth officers, and we get involved and to do a preventative talking to the other parents and to the students. So just keep an eye on your child.
Should parents approach the other parent?
No.
Why?
Well, for the most part, statistically speaking, other parents sometimes take issue. No, not my child never did that. And it's funny, I've been in many, many conversations and many roundtable discussions at the school when the parent would say, look, I know my son, I know my daughter, they didn't do this. Even though he said he did, I know they didn't do it. Oh, really? Well, let me show you what I just printed out on your son's or your daughter's Facebook account. Look at that. So lots of times they're very protective, rightfully so. I know I have 3 children myself. I know how it is to be protective. However, the best course of action would be to go to the school, have a conversation with the school, and if both the parents agree to have a sit-down conversation with a mediator there, such as myself, who was the youth officer at the time, or another youth officer, or a guidance counselor, or the social worker, all of whom are fantastic at mediating these type of issues.
What if your child is the bully? What should that parent do, and what does it say about the kid, what's going on with that child?
I'm not sure what it says. However, what he or she is doing obviously isn't right, and it should come from a standpoint of, is this the way you want to be treated? Why would you treat someone else like this? When you show respect to an individual, they'll show you respect.
I was reading some other statistics that said, and I don't remember the percentage, but often the bully is somebody who also experiences bullying. Is that what you've seen?
Not necessarily, no.
Interesting.
No, not at all.
I want to get into, and maybe there's an effect of the adult claims of bullying on the children. I mean, the news, I guess about a year ago, start with the NFL. A football player claims, on the Miami Dolphins, claims that his teammates were bullying him.
Right.
Now, I know some male teens who laughed at this, like that's ridiculous.
Right.
What do you think? And for those of you who don't remember, this was Jonathan Martin claiming that Richie Incognito was bullying him.
Well, he didn't like it. Someone doesn't like it, they shouldn't be doing it. Now, everyone said, well, it's what they do. It's what they do in training camp. Well, it's maybe what they did years ago. It's what they shouldn't be doing now. You shouldn't be calling people names. You shouldn't be calling people something that they're not. Even if they are, it doesn't matter. It's none of your business. You should be respecting other people. You shouldn't be calling people names. So I'm glad the NFL has taken a stance on it. I think it's a great thing, and it just shouldn't happen anywhere.
So you really buy into that this really was occurring?
Oh, yeah.
And that he wasn't expected to tough it out?
No, you shouldn't tough it out. There's no reason to tough it out. Just the same way as a 10-year-old shouldn't tough it out.
Now, I guess, and I have no personal experience in this, but I always thought of military boot camp being very much like that, at least from movies.
Right.
Has that changed to your knowledge? You don't?
I was never in the service, so I don't know. But I think there's a fine line between bullying and boot camp, getting someone ready for, possible combat, as opposed to getting ready to line up against the Oakland Raiders. There's a big difference.
Okay. You also hear bullying a lot from, and I hate to go to this again, but the Real Housewives on the TV franchise. They're ganging up on me.
Right.
Is there any sense that the word's being overused? In fact,
No.
in our opening story on the show, one of the opening stories was, it was in the media where someone claimed that they were being bullied. The developer of Hampshire was bullying the village.
Right.
Do you see it that way?
Well, in that case, I don't know, but I have heard of other adults bullying other adults, for sure, absolutely. In the workplace, in fact, I know someone who has been bullied in the workplace just recently resigned from a job because he was being bullied.
What kind of bullying? I did see a statistic about that 35% of adults report workplace bullying.
This was a financial office. He did very well, and he was doing so well that other people in his office, I think, became jealous and showed some animosity towards him trying to climb the ladder faster than anyone else, so he was being bullied to the point where he just had to resign.
What is the bullying entailed?
He was called names. Things were put on his computer, things that he should have done that perhaps another employee would tell him to do. It was definitely a case of bullying.
Is it, I'm just thinking of the political stuff going on these days. We've got some local politicians who've been called a bully. Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey, has often been referred to as a bully.
Right.
But it's not the same thing that we're talking about here.
Right.
And yet the expression is out there.
Right. There's, Chris Christie can talk mean to someone, but he doesn't talk on a regular basis to that person mean all the time. He may talk tough. A politician or a police officer may talk tough to someone, but it's not like someone in this man's case that I know, where he's being told on a daily basis something that he is,
So it's really something that's personal, not stopping traffic on a bridge during rush hour.
Not a good thing, but...
But in terms of bullying, because that was one of the examples that was used.
Right.
It would be something personal to that person that singles him out from other people.
Right, yes. And it's constant. It doesn't go away. And that's the dilemma that these kids face today. And in this, here's an adult that faced it every single day, and finally said, "I had enough. I'm giving this job up."
Is there is somebody who was bullied as a child more or less likely to be bullied in the workplace?
Good question. I honestly don't know that answer, but hopefully, if someone was bullied when they're a child, they're able to find a way to alleviate the being bullied when they get older, or find some resources that they can help them with.
Okay.
In the adult, if he's bullying in the workplace, he has perhaps a lawsuit now against them. In school, there's no such thing. I'm going to sue you. That doesn't happen. But he has a lawsuit.
Right.
Or could have a lawsuit. I don't know. I'm speculating.
But it's a possibility. There may be some other recourse.
Exactly.
You're not going to believe that we are already out of time, gentlemen.
Wow.
My last question for you, since you are just retired, a couple of weeks, big plans?
Just to play more golf, which is great. I love that. I'll be able to see my kids more. My younger son, who just got married, has a daddy-do list, so, as opposed to a honey-do list. So he has said, "Hey, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me?" Yeah, sure, absolutely. So.
Well, that's great.
And I work out every day, so that's a good thing too.
Well, I hope to see you around. We are so glad that you came back to join us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to retired Detective Bob Reynolds for joining us to discuss bullying. And again, we wish you well in your retirement.
Thank you.
And remember, viewers, that if you have any ideas for a future roundtable discussion, you can write to us at thelocallive@lmctv.org, or you can tweet us at thelocallive. And we love hearing from you.
Thanks for joining the Local Live Roundtable. We'll be back with more community stories in a moment.